Okay, we are going to see, we have already seen the basic concepts of tissue culture methods, the terminologies and uh, the basic procedure for performing tissue culture. We have only seen the basic procedures, but application wise, the procedures are slightly different. You have to employ different processes for commercial application of tissue culture. We have seen only agricultural improvement in crop production, the type of methods employed for raising plantlets, and benefits of somaclonal variation and so on. But there is another part of tissue culture which is commercially used in industrial uh, purposes. Like you can production of pharmaceutical, food and flavor industry, insecticide, pesticide, chemicals, all these production of certain chemicals which increase the yield, enhance the plant growth as fertilizers or insecticides. So these aspects are commercially exploited using plant tissue culture as the basic procedure. So the methods employed for industrial use of tissue culture is slightly different, because a lot of work has been done, lot of research has been done to enhance. We call it scale up procedure. It is called scale up. That is, in the laboratory conditions, they will first do all the basic steps which we have seen in the last classes, and then look for the production of certain metabolites, and then they have to replicate it in a larger amount in the industry. So that is called scaling up. Just like regeneration, hardening solvom illaya, from the test tube, how the plantlet, the tissue, the grown tissue, organogenesis lam mudinju, it comes to hardening stage. That is referred to as scaling up of the plant tissue. So similarly, for production of chemicals, there is a scaling up procedure. Before that, we have to go into what is meant by secondary metabolites. You all know the primary metabolites of any living cell is carbon product, organic carbon in the form of, can be in the form of starch or any carbon containing compounds. They are the primary products in plants. The other primary products, metabolites, are proteins and nucleic acids and lipids. So these four are the primary metabolites because they only form the structural and functional basis of the plant cells. So they are called primary metabolite. They are produced every, I mean, they are produced involuntary, like what you say, constitutive production. So it's always they are being produced by the plant to maintain its structure and function. So there are certain other chemicals, they are produced by the plants. They are called secondary metabolites. They are of not much use to the plant as such, though there are some benefits to the plant, but this can be exploited for human benefit or for animal benefit, for the benefit of other living forms. You can exploit the secondary metabolites which are produced by the plants. So they are generally defined as small organic molecules produced by an organism that is not essential for their growth, development and reproduction. So an extra kind of chemical compound is being produced by some plants, by all the plants actually, but some plants produce it in a large amount, which can be exploited for various uses for human development. So mainly it is pharmaceutical products, drugs, okay, flavors, fragrance, food additives, feedstock, insecticides, any other chemical substances. Even hormones are being used. Even growth hormones are being produced by the plant, that plant growth hormones, which are produced in large amounts. So in this case, pharmaceuticals are more valuable because some plant-based drugs are very, what to say, effective in treating. For example, vincristine. For anti-cancer treatments, they have been producing a lot of compounds. A lot of research has gone into it. and they have commercialized so many pharmaceutical compounds. Vincristine is one of them. Um, Berberine is another important chemical which is produced. No wonder there are many drugs also, that is narcotic drugs, which are produced by plants, which are exploited in illegal ways. There are also illegal measures to produce such drugs in using tissue culture methods also. But chiefly we will be dealing only with pharmaceuticals, food additives, and insecticide. So today I am going to just tell you the basic concepts of the production of these commercially important secondary metabolites, uh, which is needed for. Yeah. Why should plants produce secondary metabolites? Because it regulates the metabolic activity. Even though it is of no use to the plant, why should it produce it? Because inside the plant, the whole metabolism, metabolic activity, which involves the production of primary metabolites, are integrated with hormonal control. So everything is integrated. You cannot separate hormonal production from primary metabolite production. So auxin and cytokinin production inside the plant regulates the production of many primary metabolites like proteins and lipids. So these are some byproducts which are produced during the primary metabolite production. Like for example, the Krebs cycle is definitely a must for every metabolism. During respiration, Krebs cycle, you have alpha ketoglutarate acid, you have succinic acid, you have oxalosuccinic acid, you have malic acid. All these are cyclic compounds which help in recycling the hydrogens, you know, the biological hydrogen, you call it NADH2 or FADH2. So these compounds, they are the precursors for many secondary metabolites. So you can't stop the plant from producing alpha ketoglutarate acid because it is a part of Krebs cycle. It cannot be stopped. Even though it is of no use to the plant, it will happen because that is a cyclic process. So what will happen to this alpha ketoglutarate acid that is produced? It will be channelized to produce some secondary metabolites. It may not be useful for the plant, but the production of alpha ketoglutarate acid is inevitable. It cannot stop. It cannot be stopped. Similarly, oxalosuccinic acid or malic acid, which may not be directly beneficial to the plant, but without it, the plant cannot survive without the production of malic acid. So because it is an integral part of Krebs cycle. But what is the use of this malic acid which is produced? It has some use. It will be channelized to produce certain secondary metabolites in low volumes, low amounts. Some of them will be commercially exploited because most of it we have not screened. We have not screened the plants for so many secondary metabolites. You might be finding so many, only a handful of them have come out into the market. So this is the reason why plants produce secondary metabolites. Like it, not only that, it might protect the plants against herbivores. Like adathoda, it's not eaten by the goat. Adathoda and solvolia, adathoda ilai. So there is some kind of chemical which is not allowing the herbivore to eat it. So that becomes a protection for the plant. So that is a secondary metabolite. So it protects the plant. It may not help the plant to grow, but it protects the plant against being eaten by a herbivore. So some of them also produce phytoalexins, defense material. Some like phenolic substances are produced by some plants which help them against microbial infection. So these phenolic substances may not be useful to the plant, but it prevents the plant from getting diseased. So it also helps in pollination. So certain secondary metabolites are released outside and it attracts the pollinators and seed dispersing methods. So there are some benefits, may not be directly benefiting the plant, but indirectly it has some beneficial. So why is this exploited? Why is this secondary metabolite production exploited? Means because they have seen that 70 to 80% of total population depends on herbal drugs. That is the percentage value. It is very difficult to synthesize chemically because plant-based drugs are very complex because most of the composition is not known outside. So it is very difficult to produce it outside, synthesize it outside chemically. So we have to go in for other options like production of these drugs using cells and tissues rather than using the whole plant to extract the drug and to purify the drug. In that case, you are also spoiling the environment. So you can't, if you need 1 kilo of plant to extract 1 milligram of the drug, it is definitely environment costly. It is not good. So in that case, instead of uprooting the whole plant or using the whole plant for drug extraction, you can maintain the tissues in the same age or in the same form. We see everything has a growth curve, no? You have a lag phase, log phase, stationary phase. So in any of these phases only the drugs will be produced. So we should have a knowledge of which phase the drug is being produced, and you can maintain the cells in the same phase. You can suppose the drug is produced maximum at in the log phase of the growth, then you can maintain the cells in the log phase itself and get the drug easily into the medium. You can purify the drug also very easily. So that is the reason in vivo production is very beneficial. So main concept of in vivo culturing is callus culture and suspension culture, because more suspension culture is easier because extraction is also very easier because it is in the liquid medium itself, and you can use many techniques to get back the drug, to separate the drug from the water based medium, because the medium is in water based suspension culture only. So another method is callus culture. So in this case it is in the solid form and you have to extract it from the solid medium. So there are two basic methods. So callus culture, we have already seen how to set up the callus culture. So you can take from any explant. One thing is you have to you need to maximize the production of a particular compound. You have to initiate the callus from the plant part that is going to be the higher producer. Like for example, vincristine, they have shown that the stem has a higher a concentration of this alkaloid when compared to the leaf. In that case, if you use a leaf explant for callus, you may not get a higher amount. So you must know which part of the plant produces the maximum yield of that particular drug, and then use that part as an explant to raise the callus. So callus are generally grown on medium solidified with gelling agent, agar or agarose, and morphologically it varies with the type of explant and the type of medium that we have already seen. Mostly it is pale in color, and sometimes it is hard, sometimes it is soft. You have soft callus and hard callus, and so you have to keep on subculturing. That is also very important. When you talk about suspension culture, it is a liquid based medium. The cells of the plant cells or the tissues are suspended in a medium given a slow agitation for equal distribution of the nutrients, and you have batch culture or continuous culture. Like batch culture is, you have an S-shaped curve. You have a proper lag phase, a log phase, and a stationary phase. So batch culture, you have to use definite volume is used. You can't, once the production is over, you have to empty the whole vessel and then again start freshly. You have to again autoclave the vessel. Everything has to be started fresh. So batch culture is used because many secondary products are not growth associated. So most of the secondary products will not be produced during the log phase. Either they are produced, most of them are produced only in the stationary phase. Once the cells cease to grow, the secondary metabolites are produced in larger amounts. So that is why we know very well that you have to make use of cells. You have to maintain the cells in the stationary phase, phase. So normally batch culture is used because many secondary products are not growth or associated. Genetic instability of cultured cells, because sometimes cells, that's what I told you have variation, you have induced mutations, you have epigenetic variations are there. So one batch, if you use continuous culture, you will not know when the variation enters or when the mutation enters, and the cells will totally become different. They'll metabolically they will change. So the quality and the quantity of the secondary metabolite may get may get altered. So in that case, when we are not sure about the genetical instability, it is better to go in for a batch culture, because in that batch only you will know whether the product is of a good quality or a good quantity. So next batch you will not use if the product is not good, you will not repeat the next batch with that explant or the callus. So genetic instability is a problem. Operatability and reliability, because operating a batch culture is easier, less costly. Okay, economic considerations, that's what it means. Operationally, batch culture is easier because you are dealing with a small amount or large amount, or you're dealing with only one at a time. So it is easier and more reliable, because the result out of a batch culture is more reliable than a result out of a continuous culture. Because in continuous culture you will not know when the metabolite production comes down, or what is the reason, you will not be able to judge when the culture is growing in a continuous culture. But batch culture you can get reliable, in between problems you can see, I mean, you can verify it easily in a batch culture. So that is why you make use of batch culture predominantly. And this is the curve actually which depicts a batch culture. So types of suspension culture, you have batch culture and continuous culture. In batch culture, you have slowly rotating culture, you have shake culture, you have spinning culture where the rotation has to be slightly higher. You have stirred culture, continuous stirring of the medium is required. So continuous culture, chemostats and turbidostats. This we have little bit, we have seen it in the last semester when we were talking about in microbiology classes. So this is slow motion rotating flask. Single cells and cell aggregates are grown in a specially designed flask. This flask is called nipple flask. So you have nipple-like projections. This is the nipple flask. Okay, so you have a capacity of 250 ml. So you can grow in the laboratory conditions. You can make use of such low volume. So they are loaded in a circular manner and slowly rotated. Okay, so at a speed of 1 to 2 rotations per minute, very slowly the cells are actually coated with the explant. Explants are placed in the bottom of the tube like projections, and the medium is rotated. When the whole nipple flask is rotated, the medium gets rotated, and each explant gets a specific quantity of the medium. So the rotation is very, very slow, so that every explant is bathed in the medium. So shaker culture is very simple. In this case, you have the conical flasks with the medium and the cell suspension, and you give a desirable speed, 60 to 180 RPM. So the whole bench, I mean the whole stage, the orbital shaker platform shakes with the uniform speed. The spinning culture is in this case, we make use of large bottles, a 10-liter capacity bottle, in which you have the cell suspension with the medium, and you can spin it at an angle of 45 degrees, they are 120 RPM, so that all the cells are uniformly bathed in the medium. This is a stirred culture. It is actually, you have a stirrer which is automatically controlled, and when you need, when in the scaling up procedure, you need to use more than 10 liters, you can make use of stirred culture. So you have a magnetic stirrer, which is automatized magnetic stirrer, and you can bubble in sterile air continuously, and you can make use of this stirrer to agitate the medium. So in this case, RPM is also higher, 200 to 600 RPM. Everything depends on what is the explant, what kind of drug is to be produced. You can make use of any such modifications. Continuous culture is actually the old liquid medium is replaced continuously by the fresh liquid medium. So all the physiological parameters are stabilized. So if you want to keep the culture in a particular stage, say stationary phase, so you have to add you have to have a particular chemical in a lower volume. That is what we say chemostat. In this case, suppose you have 20 ingredients in the medium and one ingredient is in a very low amount. So always the cells will be kept in a particular stationary. They will not grow exponentially. After an exponential growth, you have to come to the stationary phase. Only then the secondary metabolite production will start. So to keep the cultures in the secondary phase itself, I mean the stationary phase itself, you have to see that you can minimize the amount of a particular important nutrient. So the cell will remain in a stationary phase. It will not grow. So in that phase itself, it will continuously produce as a secondary metabolite. So whichever secondary metabolite you want it to produce, you will have to add the ingredient precursor. Any metabolite you need a particular precursor. For example, shikimic acid is a precursor for chiconin. Chiconin is a secondary metabolite. Shikimic acid is a precursor for chiconin. So if you want to produce the chiconin using continuous culture or batch culture, you will have to add this shikimic acid in the medium. Only then it will be processed to chiconin. So that is the kind of process which we deal with in tissue culture. So in this case, the cells, you can maintain the cells continuously in desirable state. Okay, so you have closed type, you have open type, where both the cells and the used medium are replaced with fresh medium. In closed type, only the medium is replaced. But in open type, both the cells and the medium is replaced. So you have chemostat. This is culture vessels are usually cylindrical or circular. You have you can maintain the cells in a steady state. That is where I told you can maintain it in a stationary phase for a longer time. So you have to you have it, everything is automized. The pH, temperature, all the environmental conditions are automatically controlled. So you can maintain a particular chemical in a lower volume or lower concentration in order to maintain the cells in a stationary phase. So it is called a chemostat. When you use a chemical substance as a monitoring agent for maintaining the cells in the same steady state, it is called a chemostat. So you have also have turbidostat, in which the light, passage of light through the turbidity of the cells is taken as a monitoring agent. So it is also where the turbidity of the culture is held constant. So any change in the turbidity, you have to, it will be automatically controlled by the infusion of the medium or removal of the medium. So suppose the turbidity is very high, that means a little bit of extra medium will be poured in. So if the turbidity is low, if the turbidity growth is not very proper, turbidity is low, means the medium influx will be stopped. So automatic monitoring unit is connected with the culture and to maintain the desired environmental conditions like optical density or pH at the particular level. So just like we monitor the growth of microorganisms using chemostat and turbidostat, the same method is employed for plant tissue growth also. So media components, just like you will have an MS medium or a B5 medium is enough to produce secondary metabolite. So which has macronutrients, micronutrients, any kind of vitamins and amino acids and growth regulators. This is for somebody is okay. So you have growth regulators also into it. So you have to use MS medium for getting a good growth of the culture, and then you have to add as this is the production medium. I mean, you say growth medium, you say that is I mean, you are providing the medium for allowing the growth of the cell suspension, maintenance of the cell suspension at a particular phase. Then you may have to change the suspension medium into a production medium, in which you may have to add a precursor for the particular secondary metabolite. So in that case, you should know what is which precursor is going to be converted to the secondary metabolite. So in that case, you have to change the culture, cell culture, to a production medium. So normally for production of secondary metabolites, you get two types of medium. One is growth medium one is production medium. So growth medium, you will be using it to maintain the cells at a particular growth stage. But if you want to, after a month or so, when all the cells are of the same age and the same age group, and physiologically they are of the same age group, then you change the medium. You have to place them where you have to change the medium to a production medium, because what you want is the secondary metabolite. You can't be keeping it in a growth medium. In growth medium, the cells will produce only primary metabolites. But if you want a secondary metabolite, you have to change the medium to a production medium, in which you will have ingredients other than macronutrients and micronutrients. You will add precursors for the particular secondary metabolite. So in that case, the cells will start making the secondary metabolite. That is the importance of the media components. So advantages are many using plant tissue culture. If you have to produce secondary metabolites, definitely you can be very sure about the quality of the compound, because they are produced under controlled conditions. So the quality of the metabolite is also very high. So culture systems are independent of environmental factors, seasonal variation, pest, microbial diseases. All these problems are faced by normal plants which are growing in. So a plant growing in Ooty will not have the same amount of alkaloid as a plant growing in north or Himalayan range. So in that case, a variability of the drug in the whole plant is a problem. So in culture system, that variability will not be there. You will have, all are uniform. You can maintain them under uniform conditions. You can get maximum production in maintained environmental conditions. So cell growth can also be controlled. If you say that a particular at the 72-hour culture is giving you a very good yield, that means you can maintain the whole cell batch in 72-hour itself, growth itself, 72-hour age itself. Suppose you see 75-hour culture, age culture is giving best results, you can maintain the cells at the 75-hour age itself. So the cell growth can be controlled actually. The product of quality of the product is consistent. You make it in Chennai, you make it in America, you make it anywhere in the world, it is going to be consistent. And recovery is easier, definitely. Extraction process is easy. And then plant cultures are useful in case plants which are different or expensive to be grown in the field. Production time is very less, labor cost is minimal. These are the main advantages. Limitations, if you see, definitely the yield, they have seen that yield is less than when you get it from the plant. They have seen slightly, but there are methods by which you can boost the yield. That research and development has to take care of that. So scientific research is being done to enhance the yield of the product normally. So, and another problem is this genetical instability in the cultures. So you can't go in for continuous cultures, and you can't use aged cultures also. Even though they give good quality product, the yield will vary. You can't use, if you keep on subculturing the cell, at one point of time, the yield might come down. So they have seen that this is a problem. This is a limitation for plant tissue culture products. And aseptic conditions are going to be again labor intensive and cost effective. So you have to maintain every single stage very aseptically. So you have to, this contamination becomes a problem when you use tissue culture as a means for producing secondary metabolites. So these are important limitations. If you are able to, if you are able to endure, or if you are able to take this into account, the plant tissue culture is the best method for producing synthesizing secondary metabolites. So these three limitations are the most important limitations. So these are some of the reading material what I can add it in the classroom. So this you can just go through. Suspension cultures, immobilized, that is, instead of suspending it in the liquid medium, they immobilize the plant cells using certain inert materials like glass beads or alginates or carrageenan, just like synthetic seeds. You immobilize the tissues in a particular agent, gelling agent, and continuously use it for production of secondary metabolites. So how you remove the products? You can devise methods to recover the product. So most efficient bioprocessing concept for the in vitro production of chemicals result in the products being excreted into the bioreactor medium. So we will need such methods in which the chemical compound which we want is excreted out into the medium. It is easy to recover from the medium. It is difficult to recover from the cell. It is easy to recover from the medium, be it solid or liquid. So plant cells in culture which are similar to microbiological processes. So that way, when you get microbial metabolites, similarly you can get a plant metabolite also. So if it is excreted into the reaction medium, or it can be accumulated within the cells. It is easy when it is excreted into the reaction medium. Otherwise, you have to break open the cell, you have to grind the cell, and then the compound has to be extracted. You have methodologies for that also, but then when it is excreted into the medium, it is easier to recover it. So normally you have so many methodology to separate the secondary metabolite from the medium. So you can use that. Again, energy and growth sources. It is important that you see, for any commercial product, input has to be minimum, output has to be maximum. That is the profit enabled commercial exploitation. So you have to minimize the input cost and you have to maximize the output gain. So this has to be, that is only called industrial exploitation. That is only called it is going to be benefited. Industry oriented any kind of chemical compound, input should be minimum. So you have to use very cheap energy sources. So carbon sources, you need macronutrient. If you are able to get a very good growth using carbon dioxide itself, it is the highly cheapest source. So like that, they will you have to design, you have to do research and design some energy sources in which you get the minimum cost. Girls, please join again. Okay, the time is going to end.
Yes, ma'am.
Please join again.
Okay, ma'am.